What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be talking about hit detection in Call of Duty. Now I already covered the basics of lag compensation and how it works in Call of Duty, so if you missed that you can go check that out, but from that video, tons of you guys really wanted to see this hit detection video, so here it is. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so first up, let's look at the absolute basics of just how the hit detection mechanics work in this game. So if you guys have seen that lag compensation video, you will know that we get to shoot enemies as they appear on our screen, just like they shoot us as we appear on their screen. They don't have to guess where the enemy player is according to the host or anything like that, because that would be actually a different position on the map. So you just shoot enemies as they appear on your screen. Another thing we need to understand when we're talking about hit detection is that Call of Duty uses what's called a hit scan. They don't actually use bullets. There's no actual projectiles flying around the map that are bullets. I mean, there's grenades and stuff like that. But bullets themselves are hit scans, meaning if you are on target when the gun goes off, it will count as a hit. If you are off target when the gun goes off, it will count as a miss. There's no actual travel time of the bullet. There's no bullet drop. You don't have to lead your target. It's simply, are you on target or off target? Yes or no. It's as simple as that. Now you might see the animations of the bullets flying through the air, especially with sniper rifles. You see a little bit of a bullet trail. These are simply animations and they're irrelevant. This is why a lot of times you see them and they don't actually look accurate. Like you might see a sniper bullet trail go over your shoulder or something and it was actually a hit and it actually killed you. It's simply an animation to give you a general idea of what's going on. So never really trust those bullet trails. They're just animations. So now that we've gone over the hit scan, how does the information actually flow? So let's just say I was on target on my screen when the trigger was pulled or when the gun actually went off. I was on target. So now I send that information telling the host that I did get a hit. That information goes to the host. The host will authenticate that information, so it will decide whether or not it will accept that information, which we'll get into a little bit more in a little bit here. And then once it accepts that information, it will then return a hit marker to you, and simultaneously it will return the information to the other player that they've been hit. So one big key there, and this is a really common misconception, is the hit marker itself, which is the little X that appears on the middle of your screen. That's returned to you after the damage is dealt to the other player. It isn't generated on your end, so it's not like your console makes those hit markers happen. It has to send the information to the host first, the host has to accept that information, and then it returns it back to you. So if you get a hit marker, the damage has been dealt to the enemy. End of story. So if you ever hear those complaints where someone says, like, I got 12 hit markers on a guy, and he wasn't shooting through cover, by the way. If you're shooting through cover, yes, it is possible to get 12 hit markers on a guy. But if someone's complaining that they got 12 hit markers, they're simply exaggerating. They did not get 12 hit markers because the host will not deal damage to an enemy that's already dead. Once the host has deemed that player dead, they won't deal damage, they won't accept your hits, and therefore they won't return hit markers. Now, the player may have shot 12 bullets at the enemy, that's very possible, but he did not get 12 hit markers. Now, I want to go over the first situation where hit detection seems to fail, or at least it looks like it fails, and that is simply a latency sort of situation. So if we have player A, player B, and there's an outside host, so neither of them are the player host or anything, and player A has 200 millisecond ping to the server, and player B has 20 millisecond ping to the server. If they're both using sniper rifles, just to keep things nice and simple, they both are on target and they both pull the trigger at the exact same moment. Player B's information is going to reach the host first. The host will authenticate that hit. Everything will be okay. It will send that hit marker back to player B, and it will start sending the information over to player A that player A is now dead. But in the meantime, player A's information of them getting the hit starts to reach the server, but the server will not accept that hit. And the reason for this is they've already deemed that player to be dead. And the way Call of Duty's system works is once a player is dead, no information from their hit scans will be accepted. So it won't be authenticated, it'll be rejected. This is why we can't kill trade in Call of Duty. If we could kill trade in Call of Duty, due to the really fast time to kill, there would be kill trades almost all the time. So you'd get into a gunfight and then both of you would die. And it would happen so often. It would be very, very frustrating. It works very well in some higher time to kill games. I believe in Halo you could kill trade, but that was a higher time to kill game. So it kind of makes sense in those scenarios. But when you have a really low time to kill, you're going to be kill trading all the time, which is why Call of Duty does not allow that. If the host deems you to be dead already, even though you haven't received that information yet, It's not going to accept any information from you regarding your hits with a hit scan weapon. Now, if you're player A in this situation, it really sucks, and I'm sure you've all been there, especially those people that snipe and you fire that shot and you know it's on target, but then you die immediately after you fire the shot and then you don't get a kill. It is frustrating, but you have to realize this isn't actually a failure in the hit detection system. This is simply latency. And I've got a great example of this that was actually tweeted to me by a follower of mine, Fernando. Thank you so much, Fernando, for letting me use this, by the way. And this is just a perfect example of this latency. Now on his screen, he fired 2 shots with a Gorgon in hardcore directly at his enemy. There's no question that he was on target on his screen, but he didn't even get a hit marker, he didn't get the kill. And the reason for this is latency. The enemy had already killed him, the host had already received the information from the enemy that Fernando was dead, but Fernando hadn't received that information yet, so it still allowed him to fire his shots on his end, but the host rejected those hits. This really sucks, but this isn't a failure in the hit detection system. This is a simple case of latency. So that's the first explanation for the apparent failure of the hit detection system, even though it is just latency and it's not the hit detection system itself. The next failure of hit detection comes with packet loss. Now, packet loss means basically as you're sending that information to the host that you got a hit, it gets lost somewhere in the internet and it simply doesn't arrive at the host. In this scenario here, you don't get a hit marker, yet you clearly on your screen shot right through the guy, and these situations are frustrating as well. This is where I see the most valid hit detection complaints, is when people are shooting directly through a guy and then none of their hits registered and then they suddenly die. You'll also notice most of the time when this happens, everything will freeze, or at least they will freeze, or their enemy will freeze, or something will go on there. That's because the information just isn't being transmitted at that point in time, and there's just a big hiccup going on with your connection to the host. These situations will typically be quite rare as long as you have a decently consistent internet connection where you're not getting a lot of packet loss or jitter or something like that. Generally, the hosts will hold up to this, at least the hosts in Black Ops 3, but sometimes it is server side. I know the Black Ops 3 servers do have their issues sometimes, and stuff like this definitely happens, especially on double XP and double crypto key weekends, I've found. So aside from latency and packet loss, the hit detection system itself works very, very well and very consistently well. But a lot of people just misunderstand how the system itself works. And a big misconception that people have is that theater mode or kill cams are an accurate representation of what happened. And this is never the case. Never trust theater mode or kill cams to give you an accurate depiction of what happened in the game. Theater mode and kill cams basically just give you a very general indication of what the host saw, which if you remember the lag compensation video, you'll realize doesn't really matter. It's all about what you see and what your enemy sees. So it gives you a general indication of what the host saw, and it doesn't even receive all of the information that was actually going on. It receives only a fraction of the information that the host is actually dealing with. So it's just there to give you a very general indication of what happened. So never trust theater mode or kill cams. Only trust what you see on your screen in real time and what your enemy sees on his screen in real time, which I know you can't see, but you just have to realize that what the kill cam shows is not necessarily exactly what he saw on his screen in real time. So the final thing I want to talk about with this video is those moments where your hit detection just feels so crisp and so good compared to those times where it just feels like your first 2 or 3 shots just aren't registering. And again, this is simply due to latency. When you have an extremely good connection, your hits are being registered almost instantly on your screen. There's no real delay of you sending that information to the host, and then the host analyzing and then sending that back to you. It happens very, very quickly, all of that transmission, and therefore it just feels like it happens instantly, and it feels so much better. You can definitely tell those situations where it's just everything feels so good. Right here, I decided to pull a clip from my no aim assist challenge where I had some terrible aim, and I purposely picked this clip out because it was pretty terrible aim. If we go frame by frame for when I get my first hit marker, you'll actually see the latency involved here. So if we go through here, you can see my terrible aim as I sweep on a target, and right here at this moment is actually when I get my first hit, and then I start sending that information to the host. So as we advance it forward a little bit, I can actually go forward by, I think it was 7 frames. Until I actually get the hit marker appearing on my screen. At which point I've already fired my next shot, and my next shot was clearly off target, yet I'm just getting that hit marker appearing now, which might look strange because it looks like I got a hit marker for firing that one shot there, when it was actually the shot before that I'm getting the hit marker for, I'm just getting it a little bit late. This is that same feeling you get when you're on like a 2-bar connection, for instance, and it just feels like your first 2 or 3 shots, like nothing happens with them. You have to wait till your 3rd or 4th shot fires for something to register. And really what's happening here is your 1st and 2nd shot are actually registering. It's just taking them so much time that you've already fired several other shots afterwards before you get that feedback that you've actually got the hits. So again, in these scenarios where the hit detection feels bad or feels good, it's usually not the hit detection system itself, it's simply latency. So that's going to wrap it up for hit detection. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.